2 of Always Almost
Start
There's
again.
Live. Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of Always Almost There's live unveiling of the 2024 Goose Jam of the Year bracket. If you joined us last night, you saw the Apollo and Manu regions. Tonight, we'll reveal the 2 remaining regions, Chiron and Leo, including the number 1 overall seed. I'm Kev, and just a reminder, it's bracket season, you filthy animals.
I'm Brian, a.k.a. Jive Goose.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Uncle Baby Neil. So please go back and check out part 1, which revealed the first 2 regions last night. So the first 32 seeds of this bracket. We're going to do the next 32 tonight. So all of the info surrounding the bracket will be posted tomorrow morning, I think, on both Blue Sky, I assume on Ryan's Substack. If you missed the rules and everything, it's all going to be there. We're going to talk some stuff about like prizes a little bit later. So that stuff will actually be announced today. I think that covers all of the bracket business. The last thing I want to say before I pass this off to Ryan so we can get into the matchups is that when we finish the episode today, we're going to have a live edition of the mail sack. So if you want to submit questions throughout the broadcast, please feel free to do so. We'll try to pick them up. But also at the end, if you want to save your questions and kind of send them our way, please do, and we'll do as many as we can.
Live sack.
Live mail sack. All right,
Live
Ryan.
sack. It's never been done before.
Never been done.
Saying it is the greatest leap forward in modern podcasting ever. But yes, as Neil mentioned, we're going to jump right in. Just for those of you who may have missed last night, quick refresher on the format. We've got 2 regions, the Chiron region and the Leo region. We will go through the region. We will read all the seeds and then break down every matchup individually. Please, as he said, we have the live mail sack at the end, but stump for your favorite jams in the chat. Add in on some commentary. Get involved. It's Saturday night. We're here to have a good time. So without further ado, let us dive in. I clicked that too fast. So in the Chiron region, yeah, getting ahead of myself here. In the Chiron region, going from 16 back to 1, at number 16, the 11-1 tumble from St. Augustine. At number 15, we've got the Drive from Portland, 625. Creatures from Goosemas coming in at number 14. The 13 seed is Arrow from Cincinnati. The 12 seed, Hunger Site from Kansas City on June 11th. Number 11 seed, Salt from the Great Saltaire on September 17th. Our first big modern of the bracket, checking in at a 10 seed from Washington, D.C. Atlas Dogs from Raleigh on June 18th, coming in at number 9. Number 8 is the Arrow from SPAC on September 6th. Number 7 is the Pancakes from Eugene on September 24th. 6th seed is our Jive Lee from Fiddlers on June 6th. Kev will have a lot to say about that one. Our 5 seed plus 14-minute jam from Goosemas. 4 seed, the Born from St. Louis on June 4th. 3 seed, the Cap Redbird from April 9th. A 2 seed, the mighty Mississippi Half Step from Atlanta, June 20th. And number 1 seed in this region, number 2 overall, the Cap Drive. So that is our Chiron region here. We are going to dive right in. But initial thoughts on this region here. This is a pretty strong region. I think having the Cap Drive and Half Step together is interesting. If those 2 meet in the Elite 8, I think that'll be a good one. But I mean, that Cap Bird, watch out for that Cap Bird.
This is tough region. Tough region.
Well, lot of strong jams.
A lot of 2-guitar Goose in this region, which is something to be really excited about.
Yep.
A lot of personal favorites in this region.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Look out for that plus 14 minute, man.
Yeah, man.
It's no slouch. Well, let's dive into our first matchup here. Of course, we've got the 1 seed Cap Drive versus the 16 seed St. Augustine Tumble. I mean, as all these 1/16 matchups are, like, this is not really much of a competition. Again, as always with all the 1/16 matchups, I still urge you to give this 16 seed a listen. It's no slouch. I really like the way that they, again, it's a Tumble from 2024, so it's excellent. But I love the way that this one transitions out of the song. But yeah, Nate Bordash, it's not my number one, but Drive Going All the Way would not make me upset. This jam is a masterpiece. But Neil, I'll pass it off to you.
Bunch of things to say here. First, I'll talk about the Tumble. This one is no slouch. It is a 16 seed. I think that's an appropriate place for it. A lot of Tumbles this year. This one has no true identity. It does a bunch of different things, and it does them all really well, but it doesn't actually do anything cohesively, I think, throughout. But it's a neat listen. Definitely deserves to be in the bracket, so check it out. And then this Drive. Man, this Drive is ridiculous. It is 25 minutes of amazing jamming. And if that doesn't scream 1 seed to you, I don't know what does. So there's a distinct section of Peter on guitar that lasts until about the 18-minute mark that alone would put this thing in the bracket. It is insane. And then the section that follows with like Peter on synth and then Rick kind of soloing but not soloing, just kind of injecting really like cool phrases that build tension in this thing. And then the way that it finishes off is just so strong. I mean, this jam is nuts. I listened to it today and I questioned everything. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I picked the wrong number one. Maybe this one should have been the number one. So it's fitting that this is the number 2 overall. This is an amazing jam.
Yeah, and actually, before we move on, I just want to call attention to the fact that you mentioned an interesting point. This Tumble doesn't really have an identity or a defining factor, where some of the other ones do. It's interesting that all 4 of us did rank this Tumble. We talked about last night, like the Cap Tumble, for example. Not all of us had, which is a higher seed here. But the St. Augustine Tumble, while we didn't have it very high, Jive Goose ranked at 61, myself and Kev at 55, and Neil at 62. So interesting.
We all like this one.
To note that, yeah. We liked it enough to put it on the list. B?
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying that Neil and I agree that that yes, you did pick the wrong number one. Full agreement on that. I do also agree with Neil that this Drive is amazing. It's an incredible jam. Second year in a row with an incredible Cap Drive jam. This was my 5 overall, but more than happy to see it come in at a 1 seed. And of course, it gets through here. So, yep, love it.
There we go. Kev?
Yeah, there's not too much that I could add to the Tumble. It's been the year of the Tumble for this band. They've all been good. But unfortunately, this Drive is going to take it down. We talked earlier before we went live with the pod here that, there's, at least for me, re-listening today, there was like 6 different sections to the song where it just comes out of the gates on fire, goes to this really blissy space. Next thing you know, you're in space, like in general, and then they just come back and shred the song some more. It's a relentless version of Drive, and it's deserving of its number 1 seed.
There we go. All right, matchup number 2 over here in the Chiron region. We've got at the 8 seed, the September 6th SPAC Arrow, up against the 9 seed 618 Atlas Dogs. So just, gonna go for the rankings here. This Atlas Dogs is pretty overseeded for me. I think so. Jive Goose 57, myself 60, Kev at 34, and Neil at 47. So I think Arrow pretty handily wins this one for me. For context, again, Jive Goose 29, Ryan 27, Kev 13, and Neil 29. So I think pretty solidly around that, mid to late 20s mark, except for Kev. But this Arrow to me is one of the more unique jams of the year, because I think a lot of the jams, especially the darker tinged jams, are so dominated by Peter in some fashion, whether it's on guitar, like we'll talk about later, or, in the Cap Drive even, or on heavy synth. But this one he kind of disappears for most of this jam. Like if you listen closely, he's playing some very subtle stuff on synth, but this arrow is pretty much Rick, Trevor, and Cotter, all just like absolutely ripping. And I love that kind of that riff that Rick latches onto. But it's a phenomenal exercise in just evil rippage. And it's awesome. Now this Atlas Dogs is great. I mean, excellent that we have an Atlas Dogs in the bracket for the first time since 2022. Would love to see it stretch its legs more in 2025 again. But this one's very solid. You know, you get the Tarantella on the first half, and then that like excellent disco phaser piano groove on the second half. But I think in the grand scheme of 2024, it's not as impressive. And I think that this arrow pretty handily wins the matchup for me. Neil?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So Atlas Dogs, everybody gets excited about a jammed out Atlas Dogs, right?
Oh yeah.
So and this one is a really, really jammed out version. You get 15 minutes of improvisation in this Atlas Dogs. 15 whole minutes of jamming. That is, hey, for those doing the math at home, sorry, Brad Solari, but that's 5 more minutes of jamming than you got in the Greek drip. Just saying. Shots fired.
Jesus. Shuffles the papers.
I'm going to make a note here. So, yeah, I just want to point out that that's a lot of jamming. And the thing that I really love about this Atlas Dogs, it's a two-parter. You're right. You get the Tarantella thing, and then you get like a fiery kind of way out. But Cotter's drum beat in the Tarantella portion is incredible. He's got a few drum beats this year where like I listen and I'm just like, what on earth is he even doing? It's so bizarre. You don't even expect it. And that happens in this Atlas Dog. So it might be a little bit stronger than the jam suggests. Like I recommend going back and listening to this. There's a lot of jam there. This arrow also is good. And I think I am going to pick this arrow to take the matchup, but I just didn't want to pass over this Atlas Dogs without saying how strong certain parts were. But I mean, arrows this year are so good, and in context, which we don't really do in this bracket because we don't think about the linear time of things as they unfold over the year. But this arrow was like manna from the heavens when they played it. Like, we were like, when is Goose going to jam? Yeah. Jesus, and so they did, and this one's quite good. It does all the things that good arrows do this year. Peter on synth sounds incredible. And I remember after the show, I said Peter took the whole band, put them on his back, and then made this jam happen.
That was, of course, the next.
Also that. But yeah, Rick obviously awesome in this as well. Very, very good jam. This one moves on.
Question: does Neil hate the Greek drip more than the Eugene Bourne?
I just got to keep
Conspiracy
it spicy.
Neil is on the case.
We're going to do questions.
Got to keep it spicy. Yeah.
Hold your questions. I'm Ryan. I mean, hold their questions.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into details on these. What I will say is that I had the arrow at 29. Public had it at 30. So just Jive Goose and the public just kind of in lockstep, through most of this. So
once again.
Yeah. So yeah, arrow goes through here for me. What do you think, Kev?
Either Neil or the public is always agreeing with you. Yes. So I went back 2 days ago. I listened to this Atlas Dogs again. I love the song just as a song to, I think, Neil, you just said it earlier, getting an opportunity to get a jammed out Atlas Dogs is fantastic. It's unfortunate for this Atlas Dogs that it's going up against this Arrow, another one of those resurgent songs that perhaps became a little stale and just have life breathed into them over the last year. Arrow is one of those along with Tumble. I'm Arrow here. We could probably say that whoever we're selecting doesn't really matter because it's going to hit up against that drive in the next round. Mm-hmm. But I do like this Arrow, and it's very re-listenable.
There we go. Our third matchup in the Chiron region, we've got 5 seed December 14th, B and D and F Flamingos. Plus 14-minute jam from Goosemas. Nice highlight from Bingo versus at a 12 seed, the 611 Hunger Site. So this, I think the Flamingos is pretty much even, except for Jive Goose. Interesting that the one person who wasn't at Goosemas out of this group ranked it lower. But 14-minute jam with the Flamingos, of course, ranked by Jive Goose at 36, myself at 23, Kev at 24, and Neil at 25. So pretty even standing there. This hunger site, though, a little bit more divisive, which is interesting. Ranked by Jive Goose at 33, myself at 25. Kev did not have it on his list, and Neil had it at 42. Flamingos wins this for me. The bass and drums jam is sick on the front half, but it's the improv that they get into in the plus 14-minute jam. And I think we consistently see when Goose is put in a situation where they have to jam, great things happen because they're on the clock here. They get into that first, charging dark evil segment. And I think most times they would have ended after that, but they looked at the clock and they're like, we have, 7 or 8 minutes, however long left, we have to go again. And so you get this amazing build and peak, and then beautiful segue down into Rockdale. But this hunger site is one of my favorite hunger sites of the year. In a year where there are a lot of long ones, this one stands out to me. Really great riff by Peter in the initial peak, and then clav sauce on the second half, which admittedly, that's the kind of jam that I'm a sucker for. So I understand why I have it ranked higher than you guys. But, I can't deny that when Peter hits the clav and Rick turns on the sauce at the same time, I love it. But it's Flamingos here for me.
Just so many catchphrases. What do you choose there? Do you skeet digital sauce? Do you skeet clav skeet?
Clav sauce skeet.
Clav sauce. Did we just start a thing? I hope we didn't just start a thing. Don't do that. Please don't.
I've been saying it for months.
Clav sauce. All right. Hey, this plus 14-minute jam, pretty great. The first section is awesome. Second section kind of gets like a little cartoonish, which actually loses points for me. I love how inventive this jam is, but it's like, I don't know. Something about it just doesn't really get me. But all in all, I do love this. And I wish they did more stuff like this, where they have no choice. They have to find something, right? And we've talked about this before. The band they begin every practice this way. They start from nothing, and they do a jam. And so the idea of doing this plus 14 after, the bass and drums and flamingos, it resulted in this, which I think was great. So I do think this wins. It is interesting because it's excellent jamming, and then I think there are some flaws to it. So, take that for what it's worth. This hunger site, you have been talking about all year long, Ryan, since June.
Yep.
And I know like others have, and we didn't even talk about Adam yet. So friend of the pod, Adam, the creator of the formula, as it were, also a huge lover of this jam. But thank you, Adam. We're going to talk more about Adam a little bit later. But at 6ROM7, great guy. He also loves this jam. And I think there's like a cool part, like Peter kind of has this descending riff thing that he's got going on in the first part. That's pretty neat. And, as far as hunger sites go, it's pretty good. But yeah, I'd take the plus 14. Jive.
Yeah. All I'll say here is that, I think this is really just all about the plus 14-minute jam. I'm not sure about the flamingos part. I've never really been too sure that belongs here. But
one entity.
I guess the argument is that it's one entity. So anyway, kind of feels like a cool jam though at the start. Goes into Rockdale for a bit of it. But yeah, the first half or so is really, really good. So I probably have the hunger site maybe a little too high. I think this may be one of the few cases where I end up not going with my rankings and I go with the plus 14-minute jam coming out here.
There you go. Kev?
Yeah, I'm a plus 14-minute guy here. Neil, you hit it on the head. For me, when they don't have time to think about it and they just have to play, a lot of times good things happen, and this is one of those situations. There's other hunger sites that I like more than this one. I'm going 14-minute here.
There we go. Pretty clear cut, unanimous here. Yes.
Before we move on, I just want to say this one thing. If we were doing the segue of the year bracket, we're putting this segue in there because that segue into Rockdale. I forgot to say that. I mean, holy smokes. This is one of the best segues they've ever done. I mean, it is so damn cool. And if you haven't listened to it, by all means, go and listen to it. And when you do listen to this, try to listen to this bass and drums and flamingos into the Rockdale, and then just keep going with the Rockdale. I strongly recommend. It's all. I mean, actually, you can start with the 1 and 1 out too. I mean, it's all good. It's all good stuff.
Right. It was a good segment.
I'd say start with Cap Night 1. And
just listen to the whole year.
Just listen to the whole year. You'll get to the flamingos eventually.
Yeah.
Next matchup, number 4. We've got the 4 seed born from June 4th in St. Louis versus the 13 seed Arrow from November 9th in Cincinnati. Rankings update. Interesting where this one, because our rankings kind of agree with where this is seated. I guess it doesn't, but we have opinions on this Born. This Born was ranked 25 by Jive Goose, 26 by myself, 18 by Kev, and 26 by Neil. Conversely, this Arrow was ranked 39 by Jive Goose, 36 by me, 44 by Kev, and 46 by Neil. I've kind of said all year, I think this Born would be higher on my list if you cut out around 12 minutes of it. If you cut out the just really lengthy 2001 portion and you get right to that last 10 minutes of the jam, hell yeah. You get into that like kind of dark and very Trevor and Peter centric groove, and then Rick pulls them out into that like blues rock peak. That it's one of my favorite 10-minute stretches of improv of the year. And I know we say that a lot because we have a lot of favorite stretches. But I think it being 31 minutes, it's kind of a little bit bloated for a jam to be at a 4 seed here. Now it does win the matchup here. This is a very strong Arrow. Nice dark tones, but I think the Born has a little bit more going for it. And also, a 19-minute Arrow still doesn't have a whole lot of improv in it. Neil will probably throw the exact mathematics at us. But Born pretty handily wins this matchup for me, but I have Flamingos beating it in the second round. Neil?
All right, man. Well, I think this is the first time I'm going to say this. Like, Chris Newcomb, boy, is Chris right. And that's what I was going to say. I'm glad it came from the chat also. This Born is shockingly overseeded for what it is. How on earth is this a 4 seed? I just don't understand it. But it does beat this Arrow. It does do that. So, I mean, that's all I really want to say. You pointed out all the elements of the jam that I think are noteworthy, Ryan, especially that back half kind of bluesy jam that Rick pulls him into, which is rare. I don't know if it's like the best kind of thing that they do, but it's rare and neat. So that's worth checking out. This Arrow, there's not much to it. It is pretty straightforward. There is one kind of thing about it. It's just the vibe of this Arrow that I think pulls it into the bracket. They do that kind of the wall of sound thing. So the jam is super familiar. If you've listened to all the Arrows that they've played this year and you listen to this Arrow, you're like, oh yeah. So they're doing the Arrow thing. But there's just something that they do in this particular one that is just a full wall of sound. It sounds like one instrument, to me at least. And that is really cool when they can pull that off. It's rare that happens. So, but I think this Born moves on, but I don't know. I mean, maybe the folks listen to this and they say, this Arrow has something that I like more than this Born. And then that's what results in the end. So
do we want to put this on Upset Watch?
Maybe this is an upset watch. I don't know. We'll see what Jive has to say.
Upset sidelong glance.
Well, so, I think it's important to look at, the public numbers on this too, because you read off ours, Ryan, but public has the Born at 15 overall and the Arrow at 50 overall.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't think this is going to be on upset watch at all. I think the Born takes this easy. And yeah, you kind of explained it, Ryan. I think the highlight of this Born is the ending. It's some really good feel good stuff happening at the end of that jam. So, yeah, that's it. Born goes through easily, I think.
It's interesting to see how many people in the chat are agreeing with our assessment that this Born is overseeded. Where were you when the seeding was happening?
I mean, I think we're all guilty of it. I think I overseeded it.
No, that's
I
fair.
don't know how we all had a consensus on this thing.
And
Because
so
you
I didn't-
listen to it, because what happens is you listen to it and you're like, oh, 2001, and then you hear the last 10 minutes and you're like, oh, fuck yeah. You know?
Yeah,
And so-
I mean, it
and
is
so,
a good vibe.
I'm
Yeah.
going to disagree with you guys because I just looked 77% of the brackets that were submitted had this, which was like a top 12 or top 13 commonality amongst all the submissions. So to say that it's overseeded or it's undeserving or it shouldn't be where it is, I'm not necessarily sure that the submissions, at least the crowd seated submissions, bear that out. I do have the Bourne moving through this. Again, I think it's one of those things where it's going to get just shredded by a much more efficient Flamingos plus 14 in the next round. But I do think the Bourne goes through.
Not sure which jam Marty's talking about, but wow. All right. Matchup number 5 at a 6 seed. We've got the Jive Lee from June 7th at Fiddlers up against the 11 seed, September 17th, Salt. I will leave the big Jive Lee discourse, to the Colorado folk down there. I love it. It wins this matchup for me, but saying goodbye to this Salt in round 1 makes me very sad. While it does make sense, and I do think it is properly seated here, this is one of my most listened to jams of 2024. I love how it goes. I hope we see more jammed out Salts in 2025. This one kind of stands pretty clearly atop the stack of the ones that we heard in the second half of the year. But you get that great momentum throughout that charging dark section, and then Rick just lifts it up into just straight hose, to bring it back. And man, that jam will just inspire you, and will make you want to run through several walls. Now a little bit of a difference on the rankings here. So Salt 42 overall by the people, Jive Goose at 54, me at 42, Kev at 43, and Neil at 48. Whereas this Jive Lee, big discrepancy here among us. 23rd overall, but Jive Goose at 27, myself at 35, Kev at 6. There's no such thing as Colorado bias. And Neil at 38. But interesting matchup here. Neil?
Yeah, this upset alert. I got to be the first to say it. I know everybody's thinking it, so
Come
I'm just gonna say no, I'm just kidding.
Getting upset.
I'm just kidding. This Jive Lee does run with it. I mean, you guys will dig into the details of the Lee. It is outstanding. The thing that I like about this the most is the drumming. It feels like a 22-minute drum solo. I mean, it's nuts. And the band is just happens to be playing at the same time. But I mean, Cotter absolutely shines in this thing. You can just isolate the drum track and just, actually don't do that. I don't really like drums, but you know what I'm saying? When I say I don't like drums, I mean Grateful Dead drums. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's
I love the drums as an instrument. Yeah. In any case, this Salt, as Jive pointed out yesterday, I want to point this out again, is one of those shorter jams this year that I think the band finds their way to improv that is exceptional very, very quickly.
Yes.
So thank you, Jive, for pointing that out yesterday. I'd never really thought about it that way. I've always just kind of thought of the Salt as sick. It is. It's because it's a sick jam. And Ryan, thank you for pointing this out. You were the one who championed this and said, you guys, you got to give this a second chance or a third chance. Because it's just pure fire. I mean, it's fire. They do the kind of I call it the maze searching. It almost it feels it's just the theme song to going through a maze and not being able to escape. Not in the fish way, but yeah, it's really good stuff. I love this Salt so much, and I hate to see it lose to this Lee, but this Lee is pretty great.
I am also seeing, sorry for those watching at home, this Salt is from Magna, Utah, not Cincinnati, Ohio.
I missed that too.
Yeah.
And this was called Zalt at the time.
Yeah, it was called Salt at the time. Thank you to my dad for asking if it was still called Salt. Yeah. Real ones, years from now, people will be like, what the hell is STL and why is it a song on Spotify? But that's what we live with. B?
Yeah. Yep, I wouldn't waste my time fixing the location on this one because Drively's going to take it easily. That's the only name you need to remember out of this matchup. And yeah, so it's interesting. I it's funny. We've got the two big Lees, and so yeah, I've always kind of thought this is the better of the two, and I kind of thought that everyone would agree with me, but Kev does. Kev thinks it's better than I do.
I love it.
Kev thinks it's better than anyone else.
Not true. When we go over like the actual votes in this thing, we'll talk about that. But in any case, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's funny thinking back after this show, like a week after this show, I remember sending you guys a message saying that if Fiddler's Lee isn't in your top 10 jams of the year right now, then you're doing it wrong.
And I took
also
that
rate
to heart.
Cap Rosewood. So
I took that to heart.
Yeah. So anyway, I actually have not gone back and re-listened to this Lee over the last few days. But I want to say like 6 minute to 11 minute mark. I mean, it's just incredible. The improv that's happening there. And I think that this Lee, I can appreciate somebody saying that maybe it's too long for them. But the magic happens in that front half. And then the only other thing I'll say is that as far as the lead debate goes, somebody really, really close to the band, like maybe even on stage, has the Fiddler's Lee over Northlands. So, or ranks one and doesn't even rank the other. I mean, I don't know.
all right, B. Kev, would you like to talk about Colorado?
I do not need to malign Utah to say fuck salt here. I am 100% in on this Jive Lee.
Hometown boy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it also kind of hits a buzzsaw in the next round. But yeah, I love this Lee. I talk about it a lot, obviously. And I go back and listen to it a lot. And obviously, that's how I made some of my rankings this year. A lot of my rankings this year. I have this Jive Lee moving on.
There you go. I think it's honestly, it's one of the most hypnotic and psychedelic segments of music this band has ever played. And yeah, Neil's point about the drumming, Cotter makes it possible. Okay. Matchup number 6. We have the mighty, the great Cap Redbird coming in at a 3 seed versus the Goose Creatures at a 14 seed. This is nothing for me because I did not rank the Goose Creatures. I love that jam. It's great. The vibes are up. Peter's on guitar. Sounds awesome. But as far as the bracket goes, the last few minutes of this Redbird are some of the most mind-blowing shit I've ever heard from Goose. And it's funny because I just said that about the Lee, and that's a trend. You know, we talked about yesterday, I think there's a lot of jams where you have these shorter or smaller segments where it's just like, holy shit, what is going on? So that's the end of this jam. We are just like floating through space. Cotter's drumming is absolutely incredible. Rick is way up, lots of reverb, and Trevor's just playing chords on the bass. And it's truly, truly incredible. This is one of, I think, pretty consensus among the pod, at least. We all had this ranked a little higher. This is Jive Goose's number 2 jam of the year. My number 5, Kev's number 9, and Neil's number 4. So we all had this top 10. I think a 3 seed is too low for this. This should be a 2 seed. But I think it pretty easily wins this. And honestly, if there's anything in this region that I think has a chance to beat Cap Drive, it's this Redbird. So shout out to the Cap Redbird.
Upset alert.
No. Oh, in that case, yeah. Sweet 16
later in the round
or Elite 8 upset alert. And just on the Creatures front, Kev was the only one who ranked it out of the 4 of us. He had it at 61. Neil, over to you.
With the people.
Oh man. So I feel like I have to defend my position on this bird because there are bird detractors, people who don't like this Redbird. People who say I have
a question, Neil.
Yeah, go ahead.
Blame Vickers.
Not really a question, but
yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
In any case, blame him. So yeah, people don't like this bird, and some people don't like this bird. I don't understand it. Why do I like this bird? Why did I rank it where I did? That's the thing I can talk about. And it's because of two things. One, full band jamming. And two, Trevor and Cotter. I mean, there are things happening in this jam with those two. You know, like, have you ever, like, in your life just like played a sport, maybe like where, not you, Ryan, but like maybe Jive or Kev, where like you go to like, maybe you go to the bar and like you play darts, you know, and then every dart you throw is a bullseye. Or you go to like the basketball court and like every 3-pointer just goes in. That is Trevor.
Or
in
you go to the
jam.
pickleball court and
Yeah.
you win or whatever. You do
Whatever,
good
yeah,
thing.
whatever the words are for that. So in any case, Jive, you can enlighten us. That is like everything that Trevor touches in this jam turns to gold. And then Dylan said in chat, the chords, the bass chords in this, oh my God. It's so good. I love this jam so much. On the back half, Rick just absolutely erupting and just doing all kinds of insane, crazy things. I mean, wow. I can't say enough. I don't want to like read off my notes to you here. I think I wrote like the most notes. Actually, I'm going to do it. The most
no.
notes. Yeah. I mean, the beat that Cotter has going in this thing, where like the hi-hat almost like sounds like an inhale and then his fills sound like an exhale on the back half of it is so good. Just go in and like listen to his hi-hat in the middle of this, and then listen to what follows the hi-hat. That drum beat is insane. It's absolutely insane. And I know I've done a lot of talking about his drumming so far, but this is one of the best examples of drumming the whole entire year, and it's one of his first shows that he's ever played with the band. That's crazy. Yeah, you know, and then, you know, Rick. Oh, and then the you know, the Bright Jam that ends on this one is actually like super expanded upon in the Philly Tumble. So if you listen to this, there are similarities to the back end of this and the Philly Tumble. Rick does the same kind of things. He has the same guitar tone. So really neat stuff. This Creatures is cool. Throw it on, you know, maybe like when you're working out or like you're at the pickleball court. It's fun.
Get you hyped up.
Yeah, you know what? The one thing I will say about this is kind of doing the arpeggiator thing causes Rick to think about Creatures jamming in a different way, I think. And then he plays very differently in this, which is exciting because when you've listened to Creatures for years and years and years, they all start to sound the same. And when they sound different, you get really excited. And that's how it lands in the bracket, I think.
Yeah. B.
Jive.
Yeah, I love this Redbird. You were saying Philly Tumble? So I should check that. Is that a jam I should check out? You said it's
somewhere in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, I don't.
Is it?
It's on my notes.
You don't have any notes?
No. Okay. We're having a good time. Yeah. So Ryan mentioned that I had the Redbird at number 2 overall, which is true. And I think what's most interesting here is, so Redbird came in at number 10 overall. When we look at the every jams selected by percentage, so percentage of total submissions that included this jam somewhere in their picks, Redbird is the first one to dip under 70%. It's the first one to dip under 77% selected by in that top 10, and it goes all the way down to 67%. So that means 1 out of every 3 submissions did not even include this Redbird in the 64, which I just find astonishing. And so I think that's why it dropped down, and we all had it. I think the people that did select it tended to have it on the higher side, you know, certainly in their top 15, top 20. Anywho, you mentioned the cool stuff Trevor's doing with the bass chords. It was mentioned in the comments. Nothing else really to add. I obviously love this jam, and I think it's incredibly strong. And yeah, I don't have any Creatures in my bracket, so sorry about that. Kev? Sorry.
Yeah, Jive, you were mentioning that 67% of the people that submitted brackets submitted this Redbird. And why did this Creatures make the bracket? It's because 41% of the people that submitted brackets submitted this Creatures. So that's why it's there.
Thanks,
I'm not saying it's not, I'm not. Why do you guys hate the people? So obviously this Creatures
41% of the people.
It's not, man.
It's
You're
such a
very
joke. I'm kidding. I'm
you're
kidding. Don't
very
put it back.
dismissive.
Yeah.
So regardless, this Creatures, it's a very efficient jam. I do enjoy it. I do go back and listen to it, but come on, like this Catbird slays this Creatures here. So obviously it's going to move on. There you go.
There we go. All right. Matchup number 7. 7 seed, the Eugene Pancakes from September 24th, up against the 10 seed DC Big Modern from November 13th. My birthday modern.
BM.
I'm a huge fan of both of these jams. I'm a big modern guy. What can I say? Adventure does love a roof rack. This Pancakes wins for me. It's definitely on the weaker side for its runtime, but in terms of just absolutely show-stopping improv. But this is a 34-minute jam that I can throw on, and it breezes by for me. Like, this does not feel like a chore, like one other 35-ish minute jam that they played in 2024. Love the first half goes through a couple of different movements, but I think it really takes off in the second half with that extended, Peter organ section, and then you get that heavier thing, and then the bliss, and then the loose ends fake out, before they come home. But I love this jam. Kind of goes to a lot of different places. I think whatever comes out of this matchup loses next round. But this Big Modern is no slouch. This is some of the best guitar Jeb of the year. Around the 10-minute mark, you've got him just pouring chords over what the rest of the band is doing. Kind of even pushes Rick in a different direction. It sounds like, but you can hear the evolution of Jeff on guitar by listening very closely to every Big Modern from the fall. And by the time you get to Austin, that and the Draconian Meter Maid from Austin, let's take a moment to appreciate the growth of Guitar Jeb, both in volume and in playing throughout the year. I can't wait to hear, what he's bringing to the jams when they come back in a couple of weeks, because, I know that's something he has been working on getting better at, and it has paid off. He's so much higher in the mix, and he's so much more active in jams. So shout out to Guitar Jeb. But Pancakes takes this here for me. Neil?
So I think the question that everybody's wondering in chat is, how much do you get paid for praising Guitar Jeb?
I get paid nothing.
Because you do it a lot.
Because I hear it, and it deserves praise.
No, you're right, though, in this one. It's actually really good. There's a section where he is doing kind of, he really does try to do this kind of Bobby Weir injecting weird chord, shapes in there, and it sounds great in this. And if they can have that while Peter is playing keys, this band sounds pretty awesome. So this is the only Big Modern that I ranked. I ranked it because it is very, very strong. The jam is actually familiar. You kind of hear it all over the place. I'm not being mean. I'm just being mean to Ryan. I love Guitar Jam. I do mean it, because this Big Modern is the best example of it too. But this Pancakes, Ryan, resident keyboard nerd, doesn't talk about how Peter Onspach is an absolute all-star in this jam. It is insane how awesome he is. Beginning to end, every keyboard he touches, he does something absolutely incredible. But his work on the Hammond is so awesome in this. It's just not normal for him. He doesn't usually play the organ in this way. And so when I listen to this, as a fan of the old MMW with Schofield, and I hear this, I'm like, okay, this is something I can really, really get into. And then, of course, Peter's doing very Medeski-like stuff on the Hammond. Then Rick just steps in and is like, well, I'm just going to do Sco shit. It's amazing. He hits the Schofield button on this one, which is purely in his hands. It's not actually a pedal. It's just the way that he actually plays the guitar. And so I love this Pancake. Some people really love this Pancakes. I don't know. Did I actually match this with what people actually? Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to read.
I rated this way higher than the people actually.
You rated this 4 slots ahead of the people. So Jive and I had it at 21, Kev at 26, and you at 22. The people had it at 26.
Yeah.
And this Big Modern, which is incidentally the highest ranked Big Modern of this bracket, was at 39 overall, ranked by Jive Goose at 18, myself at 29, Kev at 46, and Neil at 63. What do you really have an anti-Big Modern bias?
It's not anti-Big Modern bias. I think there was one Big Modern that was worthy of being voted into the bracket this year. It's just fair. Like, folks are excited about the song, and I'm also excited about the song, but there haven't been excellent versions yet, in my opinion. And you can flame me on Blue Sky or whatever if you want, but that's how I feel. I want to say one more thing before I pass it off. The return to pancakes here is one of many awesome returns to pancakes, but this one is super inventive. They actually build this one up brick by brick over the course of several minutes, which is really cool. And I love the way that works out. So Jive, what do you got?
Yeah, so not much more can be added. I've got the pancakes going through here, and I had 5 Big Moderns in my 64.
My man.
Amazing.
Kev?
Yeah, well, it's so Big Modern is going to be, and this isn't a futuristic podcast that we're doing right now, but I think Big Modern is a song that we're going to be looking at this year, 2025, to do some spectacular things. There were 11 different versions of Big Modern in 2024, unique different versions that were submitted for the bracket. So that by itself is very interesting. That being said, I do have this pancakes moving through this round.
But I would say a light upset watch. As a 7-10, they're pretty close based on the people ranking, and this could happen. Some people don't like a 34-minute jam. Our final matchup of the Chiron region, matchup number 8 at a 5 seed. This is actually a 15 seed. The 1 is missing. Apologies for the typos on the graphics here. This is a 15 seed, the 625 drive from Portland, Maine, up against the 2 seed Mississippi Half Step from Atlanta, night 1, June 20th. This is Half Step all the way for me. This drive is notable, for being 2 Guitar Goose for 20 minutes. And I think I had it higher on my list than I should have throughout the summer just because of that fact. But listening to it, it's very solid yet, unspectacular jamming. Shout out to it going into Hollywood Nights at the end. That's great. But this Half Step, similar kind of path or arc, if you will, to the Cap Drive, in that you get this very like grinding, kind of dark and heavy 2 Guitar Goose for a big chunk, and then nice major key modulation from there. Peter goes to keys, and you get a beautiful peak to end it off. Yes, Andrew Duddy, this Half Step does cook. Is this the highest seeded cover we've ever had in a Jam of the Year bracket? Correct me if I'm wrong. No?
It's gotta
2
be
seed Eau Claire, the way it is.
It is.
Thank you very much for reminding me of that. But this is Half Step for me. I do have this Half Step losing to the Cap Bird, but this one is strong. I will actually read the rankings on this. We were all within a few of each other. So it was 7 ranked by the people. Jive Goose at 16, myself at 12, Kev at 10, Neil at 14.
I split the difference.
This drive, and this drive was also ranked by all of us. 59 by the people, 44 by Jive Goose, 38 by me, 51 by Kev, and 41 by Neil. So underseeded for us.
Yeah.
Neil?
Man, I do like this matchup of 2 Guitar Goose versus 2 Guitar Goose. I will push back on your point that this drive is unremarkable. I think it is remarkable because it's 2 Guitar Goose, and all 2 Guitar Goose rules. And I know you meant that. I just wanted to point that out. So very good, but you're right. There's nothing that like really stands out in this drive. However, in this Half Step, there are many things that stand out. I think it is 2 might be a little high, of a seed, but I do love this jam. Just side note, Half Step is like one of the things that drew me to this band. Their cover of this has always been really exciting for me. So to see such a strong version of this in the bracket makes me really, really happy. So again, this is a 2 Guitar Goose jam. I love all 2 Guitar Goose jams. Yeah. The interesting thing in this one, and Peter does this from time to time, where he basically plays a bass line as like a rhythm thing. but he's just playing bass lines on the guitar. And what that does is it opens up space for Trevor just to do whatever the hell he wants, really. I mean, so he just kind of drops like trills on the bass, like all over the place in this thing. And that makes it sound really great. So he's got a lot of room there. The second part of this, like the second phase of the jam, as it were, Peter kind of turns on some tremolo, a bunch of different effects. And his guitar sounds like somewhere in the middle of Jesus, Mary Chain and Stone Roses. And if you kind of like older rock and roll like I do, like those two bands, that shit immediately lights you up. And I was just like, oh man, this guitar sound is so good. And we know that Peters is so good at making sounds that he uses once and never again. And you hear it and you're just like, oh my God, that's amazing. He should do that again. And it's gone. Like, that's it. And he does that in this one. So I recommend listening to that in the second half of this half step. Strong matchup of these two for what it is, actually, a 15 and a 2, but really cool matchup. Half step does move on pretty easily though.
There you go. You're muted, B.
Half step.
Jive Goose is very concise tonight. Kev?
So we have, what do we get here? A consensus 7 pick with Mississippi half step submitted by 82% of bracket submissions. So again, I don't know that it's necessarily like overseeded. It seems appropriately seated. Drive has been an embarrassment of riches this year in terms of a song that we've just been given glorious versions of. Unfortunately, for this particular drive, half step moves on.
There we are. And that brings us to the close of the Chiron region over here. For me, I mean, this is a cap drive Final Four pick for me, but I also, as I said, I wouldn't be mad if Cap Drive wins the whole thing. I would not be mad if Cap Bird beats Cap Drive, and I think it should be capable. I don't think, based on the way that it was crowd seated and the way that people ranked it, as we talked about before, give it the ability to do that. But we'll see, if and when that matchup comes around, if it has the ability to. But Cap Drive, this makes it to the championship match for me. Neil, your Final Four pick?
My Final Four pick out of this one, it's got to be the drive. I mean, that drive is so good. But I did say yesterday that every time we do the Final Four pick, I would say that the Westville Rockdale should win. So, yes.
Well,
Jive.
so like I said, I mean, I've got to stick with my own rankings and let them guide the way here. So it's going to be the Bird for me coming out. But I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be surprised if it's the drive. And yeah, I mean, the fact that Half Step ended up all the way as a 2 seed, then I also have to say that I wouldn't be shocked if it made it through here.
That's a good point.
Facts.
Kev?
Yeah, I have this drive ultimately moving through for my Final Four here. After re-listening to that drive today, I think I am in a position where I'm not so sure what I'm going to be selecting for the champion at this point. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that this evening.
He's a free agent, folks.
Nice. Love it.
His vote can be purchased with posters that he
not
doesn't have.
purchased, but certainly influenced.
Yeah. Kev, let's talk.
All right. It is now time to come to the final region of the bracket, the Leo region. And we have gone in a different order than we will be voting in. So this will be the first region that gets polls come next weekend. So Neil, why don't you tell us what we've got in store for this region?
Man, this one, I've been excited about this for days.
Me too.
I really wanted people to hear this. So, I mean, let's just dive right in, right? I mean, this one's going to blow people's minds. All right. So we've got the 16 seed Salt Shed Wisteria. Very, very interesting jam. Very atypical Wisteria. We'll talk about that a bunch. 15 seed B Dunn's favorite, Western Sun from the Salt Shed. So Salt Shed, 16-15. Then we have the Fox Redbird at number 14, 622. Some people have called that the Cleveland Arrow of Redbirds. So take that for what you will. Then we have the Cincy Big Modern, definitely very interesting version of Big Modern. Then we have the Troutdale Creatures, second creatures in the bracket. That's 922 creatures. Then we have the Walkie Earthling or Alien at the 11 seed. Wow. That is crazy. That's the only Earthling or Alien that made the bracket. Then we have the gigantic Holmdel Big Modern.
Big
Huge.
modern.
Big Modern. First ever version. Also, 9-1. And then we have the St. Louis Empress of Organos, the extra saucy Empress of Organos. And then that's at the 9 seed. Then we have the insanely fiery 8 seed Minneapolis Drive. People really stoked on this jam. So upset alerts all over the place with this one. And then we have my favorite band cover of the Inside Out from Kansas City.
Spoon.
Everybody knows I love the spoon. You know, it's got to keep the bet going. So that's 6/11. That's June 11th. Then we have the Goose Miss Hunger Site at 6, which I think is fascinating. I think that's actually an underseed. But in any case, then we have the Cincy Redbird, absolutely fantastic jam there. And then at the 4 seed, flashback to 2021, fan favorite, the Philly Tumble is the 4 seed in this region. At the 3 seed, we have the Holmdel Matavon. And then at the 2 seed, at the 2 seed, we have the Raleigh Pancakes, the extra blissy Saints Jam Raleigh Pancakes. And then at the, let's see here. Wait, was that the 3 that I just read off? That was just the 3. And then at the 1 seed, we have the Fox Arrow, the extra fiery Fox Arrow. So, I mean, that's a lot to take in, guys. Big things happening in this one. I think folks thought that Philly Tumble should have been a number 1 seed. I mean, you just got to be careful where you get your information from. Yeah, man. I think we're all pretty surprised by that one. Ryan, can you just show us the slide there?
Yeah.
All right.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you. Number 1 seed,
Jesus
Tumble. So,
Got him.
there we go.
This is the 1 seed overall, the Philly Tumble. So obviously that Neil just bumped everything up there for the joke. We hope you Philly Tumble fans can appreciate that. But yes. Neil, will you read the top 4 seeds?
I knew what it really was, and I was getting
All
upset.
right, I'll do the top 4 seeds again. So here we go. Number 4 seed is the Holmdel Matavon. Number 3 seed is the Raleigh Pancakes. Number 2 seed is the Fox Arrow. And then the 1 seed, of course, is the Philly Tumble. So we're going to go over this a little bit later when we talk about the stats of all this stuff. But the Philly Tumble did appear on the most brackets, which is interesting. And then we'll talk about it. I'm not gonna give it away, but it did appear on the most brackets.
Yeah, number 1 overall seed. So Neil.
Oh boy, yeah, man, I get to do like the first one through this whole thing, so I'm really excited about this. So, all right, let's clear the air. I'm not going to talk about this wisteria other than saying this is a unique wisteria. It's strangely dancey. I don't know if there's another wisteria like it, so check it out. That's neat. This tumble. We do a lot of joking about this, and I think some folks want this to be the jam of the year. I think my ratings disagree with this being the jam of the year. We should kind of talk about what ratings are on this.
Yeah. So Jive
Wait,
Goose
I got it.
Oh, you
got
got it? You've got it?
Yeah,
It's in your
do.
pile.
Yeah, it is in my pile. Oh, you know what? Why don't you do it?
All right. So Philly Tumble rankings. You're on fire here, Neil.
Yep.
Jive Goose had it at 8. I had it at 10. Kev had it at 3, and Neil had it at 7.
Yeah.
So Kev had it at a 1 seed.
Yeah. So, all right. This is why I don't think that the Philly Tumble is the jam of the year. In similar, my criticism of this is the same criticism that I had of the Mission Arcadia, which I think these two get put in the same bucket for me. This is possibly one of the best improvised guitar solos that Rick has ever had. So I agree with those folks. When they hear this and they say, this is exceptional, this is Goose like we've never heard before, I don't disagree. But where I do disagree is this is a jam of the year bracket. And I really like full band jamming. And I don't know if that's what you walk away from this with. You walk away from this with a really awesome guitar solo. I mean, Rick is a hero in this thing. It's insanely good. So that is my take on this. I think it being a 1 seed is, I don't strongly disagree with that. I think folks loving this jam is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. So one thing I'm not going to do on this podcast is say like folks who say that Philly Tumble should win it all are wrong. They're absolutely not wrong. I just disagree with their assessment. That's all. Jive.
Yeah, no wrong answers. That's kind of my motto. But we have to talk about this tumble. It feels like a polarizing jam in a lot of ways. And I've actually, I've got nothing but love for this tumble. I had it at number 8 overall, which is, I mean, that's pretty good, And so Neil, you made the comment about, jam of the year and kind of what that means to you. And you alluded to, full band jamming and I think that's a great point that you make, in that it highlights the fact that everybody has their own criteria for a great jam, a highly ranked jam of the year in their opinion, and what have you. So, this is such a fiery jam that, I mean, I'm not shocked that it's up there. I don't need to break it down. I've got it number 8, like I said. The only other thing I want to say about this tumble is that in some ways, for me, this is the salt cakes of this year. And what I mean by that is salt cakes had the most fiery, sustained jam last year. I mean, it went hard for 6 minutes. I mean, it's such a fiery jam. And so this tumble, that's why I have this tumble ranked so high, is that they go hard. I mean, this is at the top of my my 2024 version of the Rick absolutely shredding for a sustained period of time playlist. And
to be released.
And yeah, it's there for a reason. And it does take a full band to pull off a freight train jam like that. I know what you mean by full band jamming, but again, I think just the different strokes, and
yep.
And yeah, I do listen to this tumble a lot, but not the whole thing. I do kind of trim it down to that.
The Jive Goose Jam mix. All right.
Yeah. Anywho.
Kev?
So I think Jive and Neil, to a larger point, I think you guys are right. The preference for this tumble comes about based on how you feel about what you want out of a jam. I think this one is going to end up in the final 4, and we're going to find out like what percentage of people who are voting, prefer to listen to their Goose this way. I like this jam. I go back to it often. I listen to most of it, probably a little more than Jive there. So I have this tumble moving forward to the next round.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I've tumbled. Moving on, obviously, not too much to add. I do just want to point out, this is the crowd favorite for this year, obviously number 1 overall. But the only time the number 1 overall seed has ever won the Jam of the Year bracket was the Perio Western Sun in 2021. So I want, the Legend Valley All I Need in 2022 and the Hunger Salt last year both had similar out of the gate, campaigns. It seemed as though everybody was behind them, and having, those jams make it to the final, it's a shoo-in. And both of those jams ended up losing at different points. So I'm very, very curious to see, not saying that the Philly Tumble is 100% going to lose at any point, but I'm curious to see what the trajectory of this jam is and how much it can overcome and by what margin. But I think obviously we know this is one to watch. Absolutely.
So Ryan doesn't want it to lose, but he did want to take that opportunity to jinx the fuck out of it. Some historical.
Right. Now it's going to win. Yeah.
Oh, man. Amazing, Ryan. Absolutely amazing. Next slide. Next slide. All right. So now we have the number 8 seed, 914 Minneapolis Drive, fan favorite, versus the 9 seed, 6-4 Empress of Organist from St. Louis. And as far as 8 and 9 seed matchups go, this one feels pretty far apart to me. Let's take a look at the rankings here. All right. So Drive, we have 32, 28, 19, 24. So that's
sorry. Let's Jive Goose at 32.
That's what I
Myself
said.
at 28.
I was
Kev
just
at
about to say that.
19, and Neil at 24.
Thank
didn't
you
say
for
who.
jumping in there. I was going to say Jive, Ryan,
All
Kev,
right.
and then Neil, because that's the order that I'm reading it off in. But thank you for that, Ryan. So that's where we have that Drive, and then for the Wisteria we have Jive 37, Ryan.
Empress.
I'm sorry, Empress. Jive 37, Ryan 30, Kev 28, and me at 30. So we're all kind of, in that area there.
Wait, what was Ryan's?
Ryan's was 30. All right. So, all right. The point I'm trying to make here is that it's not that close. I think we all had these far apart. And this Drive, the way this Drive ends is just absolute fire. I love the way that this ends. Rick is just absolutely blazing. I think this Empress is just a lot of the sauce, and I think we all were really hyped on that in June, and then that's what we end up with. So, Jive, what do you got?
Yeah, so I actually thought that this is the tightest 8-9 matchup, and to maybe state this a little bit more clearly for my own brain, the crowd had these at 32 and 33 respectively, so closest matchup seeding wise, and then I had the Drive at 32 right along with the public, so just lockstep there again, and then I had the Empress right behind it, at 37. So this one's close for me, and this is another one of those where I might actually have to make a game time decision on, do I stick with my ranking. This one's close enough to where maybe I make a game time decision, but I am a little bit of a sucker for just the Drives in general over Empress. Unless you've got, some Humphreys guys in there on the Empress. I think it's going to take a lot. So yeah, probably the Drive, but I think this one's really close. I think this is a coin toss all the way.
Yeah. Kev?
It's my understanding that sit-ins are not proper Goose.
So it's been said.
It has been said. I ended up picking the Empress on this one to move forward.
I went with the Empress here. I can't get enough of this jam. I know that we just read the rankings and I have the Drive ranked higher, but in a head-to-head matchup, this Drive is amazing, but I love this Empress jam so much. It's not just the sauce. It's also what Peter's playing underneath, and that kind of it's really groovy, but also feels like you're speeding along sharp curves and whatever. That's kind of the vibe I get when I listen to this Empress, but I really love the directions that it goes, and I hope we get more extended Empresses like we saw in the first half of the year in 2025. Next up.
Here we go. We get yet another Redbird, one of the second best Redbird of the year, I think, in my opinion. And then we get another Creatures. This Creatures is a head scratcher for me. I don't understand why people are excited about this one. I think you put this one in a bucket with all the other Creatures that were played this year, and I don't know if I can differentiate them. So, Kev, I think you're the only one out of us that ranked that one. If you have ideas about why you like this Creatures, you let me know. Sorry for the call out there. That wasn't really my intent. But this Redbird is another example of Rick just grabbing onto a riff and developing the hell out of it over the course of a pretty extended jam for a Redbird. I really do love this one, and I think this Redbird moves on. Jive.
So I'm just going to do a bullet list of the things I agree with Neil on. Bullet number 1, second best Redbird of the year. Bullet number 2, I don't know why this Creatures is on here. Kev, tell us what you like about this Creatures.
And so what I'm hearing from 3/4 of this pod right now is a lot of mocking of the community that comes up and takes
I'm
the
not
time
mocking
to-
anybody. I'm not making fun of
it
anyone.
sure feels
It's
like
okay.
it, and I'll tell you why. Because 43% of the brackets that were submitted had this creatures on it, so it feels a little mocking. And it was a consensus 45 overall. It loses to this Redbird, but the mocking should not stand.
Kev is the true man of the people of this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, not much to add.
Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
I want to
yield.
share our rankings on this Redbird really quick. It was ranked 17 by the people. Jive Goose at 13, myself at 18, Kev at 21, and Neil at 17. So Neil on the money there.
Nailed it.
Nicely done.
Pulse.
I'm
Yeah,
often
I mean, this
absolutely
Creatures
right.
has a little bit of dark tinges to it. Very enjoyable to listen to, but again, not a bracket jam for me. So yeah, I'm perplexed at how high it went. I think it's not the highest seed that I'm confused about. That would be Cap Rosewood. But I'm not sure how it gets up this far. All right. B, you had
Okay.
something to add on this matchup? Or
No, I mean, I wasn't going to say anything else, but I mean, you bring up the Cap Rosewood again, so I'll just add that Ryan doesn't like dogs.
Oh my goodness,
everybody who knows me knows that. All
the
right.
slander is flying.
Number 4, Neil.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so we get the Homedale Madhavan, number 4 seed, 9-1. Absolutely insane, fiery jam. There's all kinds of good stuff to like about this one. And then the Cincy Big Modern. I also really love this jam. This one didn't make my bracket, but there are elements of it that I think are outstanding. I think when you listen to this Big Modern, you hear the sea change in jamming style that I think happened in Cincinnati. Specifically, the band throughout this, people are introducing musical ideas, and then they're immediately replicated by other band members. And I think that is a thing that the band has always done. I think Jive would say, yes, they've always listened to each other and responded musically. But I think this Big Modern is an excellent example of them upping their game on that. They were really leaning into that in this one. So like you kind of hear this like little descending riff, and I think it might even be Peter who introduces it, and then Rick immediately replicates, and then Trevor immediately replicates.
Yeah.
And that to me is a level of communication that is exciting. I think the actual jam that results isn't all that exciting, but I don't know how to explain it. It's not like a super high jam of the year thing, but it is still some really neat jamming to listen and hone in on. This Madhavan, though, wow. I mean, it's got all of the elements of something that should be a 4 seed. It's got some fiery guitar playing from Rick. I mean, this is just like an excellent Madhavan. And it's got some incredible synth work from Peter. It's got all the good stuff. This Madhavan moves on pretty quickly for me.
Yeah.
This is my third of 5 Big Moderns. So I got to keep track of them here. I have a separate sheet of paper with just Big Moderns on it.
As you should.
Yeah. And this is the third of the 5. So, but yeah, the Madhavan's just better, and so it moves on.
So yeah, I don't track my BMs on a spreadsheet like Jive does. And another thing I want to say, I want to shout out. I don't know if he's in the chat here, if he's living his life. I hope he is.
What's that?
But I want to shout out B Dunn for putting this Madhavan back on my radar and stumping for it, because I did go back when he brought it up. I think it was about a week or so ago, saying slanderous things like it was better than the Fiddlers, which I knew on face wasn't correct. But it at least brought it back to me to give it another listen, and I was very thrilled and happy that I went back and listened to it. It's a fantastic Madhavan. It easily moves on against this particular BM.
Thank you for all that BM knowledge, Kev. Just some
Drop it.
context on our rankings here. This Madhavan was ranked 13 overall by the people, 20 by Jive Goose, 14 by me, 15 by Kev, and 13 by Neil. Nice job, Neil.
Nailed it.
On fire in this region.
I'm a man of
and
the
this-
people. I don't think I think we talk about me not being a man of the
All
people
right,
a lot
all right.
because it's like it's an easy pot shot at me, but like I think generally the folks agree with me. Unless
All
I'm
right,
talking
Neil.
about the Greek trip, but that's another
Okay.
story.
Cincy Big Modern, ranked 51 by the people, 34 by Jive Goose, 39 by me, 52 by Kev, and not ranked by Neil. I agree with Neil on that riff that all of them kind of latch in on early on in this Big Modern. But unlike Neil, I think that the rest of the jam is amazing. And this is probably also, this is one of my most listened to jams since November. I think the DC Big Modern is better, but I listen to this one more. I think probably because the DC one doesn't have the ending, unless you listen to the encore. So that's not saying that this is better jam, but I like when my Big Modern comes back to the ending, because the ending is great. But this Madhavan is spectacular. You have that ebb and flow we were talking about, that we were talking about yesterday with the couple of Salt Shed jams, Thatch and the Drip Field. And this one was 2 weeks earlier, but it kind of has that in a very different way, very heavy, but also a very unique vintage vibe playing from Peter on this jam. But this is an incredible, incredible version. Second best Madhavan of 2024. Neil, matchup number 5.
Oh man, this one's pretty interesting. This Hunger Site is I love this jam. This is one of my more listened to jams, and everybody's got their favorites. This is about a 6 seed. Ryan will run through whoever did the rankings and whatever, because clearly he won't let me say them without jumping in. So I'm not even going to try anymore. But in any case, the one thing I love about this one is that Rick introduces a riff. And it's not a riff, it's just like a phrase. And they just develop this phrase over and over and over and over again until, and this is one thing that I haven't talked about yet, but like there's a thing that happens in Goose Jamming in this year that's like akin to a frog in a pot of water that you slowly bring to a boil. You don't jump out, you have no idea what's happening. The jam just starts somewhat quiet, and then before you know it, you are in an absolute frenzy. And that happens in this Hunger Site. So there's like 2 things going on. There's a development of a very simple phrase, and then there's this very gradual build that you don't even realize how you got there, but at the end it is just going berserk. And the thing that this little phrase reminds me of is the Went Gin. So I'm not calling this jam the Went Gin. It's a 6 seed in a 2024 year Goose bracket, but it's this like same redoing of the same phrase over and over and over and over again, and just building something amazing out of it. And that's some inventive improv, if you ask me, because it doesn't ever get boring. It doesn't ever get monotonous. It's always exciting all the way through the end. I absolutely love this Hunger Site. And then this Earthling or Alien, my notes for this are that sometimes you just want to listen to Rick shred on the guitar, and folks said this is the one. And that's what I hear when I listen to this, is Rick just being Rick and being really, really good at playing the guitar.
There we go.
Jai, what do you got?
Yeah, so I don't have much on this one, and in fact, I think I have this Hunger Site, way lower. I know I have it way lower. I generally don't rank Earthing or Alien jams. They're just generally not my style. You know what I mean? Just the vibe isn't there for me. So I'm definitely going to go with the Hunger Site here. But I've also just kind of marked it as, kind of one of those jams that I need to go back to, since I have it at 48. And I like to be more in lockstep, with the public than that. And so that's a gap like that tells me that, I gotta get on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so interesting. So it was ranked 22 overall, this Goose Hunger Site. Jive mentioned he has it 48. I had it at 17, Kev at 27, and Neil at 18. And none of the 4 of us had the Earthling ranked in our top 64. That was one of only a couple of jams in the bracket that none of us had. The other one, actually, the only other one being the Cleveland Arrow. But this Hunger Site to me is all about Peter playing the same note pattern for like 3 minutes straight. You mentioned Rick and building here, and this is one of the things that Neil has kind of championed in regards to Cotter, especially in the second half of this year, and his ability to just gradually ramp up the intensity and speed, and just like so imperceptible that it doesn't feel like a here we are kicking into the peak, and it's just like. And this hunger site is just an absolutely gorgeous example of that, and that level up that we saw happen at Goosemas and New Year's in December. So amazing. Kev, do you have anything to add on this matchup?
Goosemas attendance bias. I love this hunger site.
Nice. Love it.
Can you tell that Kev likes the 4 shows that he saw in 2024?
Yeah.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Number 6, Neil.
Oh man. Okay, so here we go. So we have the 3 seed Raleigh Pancake 618, and then the 14 seed 622 Redbird, as I mentioned earlier, friend of the pod, ranker of Redbirds, writer of Redbird Jam charts at Captain Incredible. Jeff calls this the Cleveland Arrow of Redbirds. I disagree with him. I rank this Redbird. I stand behind this thing.
You did.
So I think people's knock on this Redbird is that this is another jam that doesn't have an identity. It doesn't find a thing that it loves or that absolutely resonates and runs with it. It does a bunch of different things, but the one thing that I really like that this does is it gets very weird, dissonant, and totally noisy. And if we learned yesterday, I love dissonant and noisy things. So this one had to end up on my list because I love those kinds of jams. I wish they took more chances like this and really leaned into those chances like they did with the Westville Rockdale, right? This one they did about, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe a minute of it. And then interesting juxtaposed against the 618 Pancakes, which the claim to fame for this thing is just a really gorgeous Bliss jam that is somewhere in the neighborhood of that Saints major key thing that they've been doing all year long. A lot of people think this is the best version of the Saints jam. I disagree. I think that's actually better in the Wisteria from Portland. But in the end, the 618 Pancakes moves on. Jeff.
Pancakes.
Concise.
Kev.
Concise. Yeah, I just saw in the comments there no show shaming. So I would like to emphasize and reiterate that no show shaming. I have this Pancakes moving forward.
All right, then.
There we go. There we go. Pancakes was ranked at 12 by the people, 26 by Jive Goose, 19 by me, 11 by Kev, and 12 by Neil. So nice work, Neil. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this Pancakes kind of it's an excellent jam, but I feel like the Saints peak overstays its welcome by around 30 seconds to a minute. I think Rick was really enjoying that space, and this was the first time he had found that. Obviously, he would several more times, but I think that it just went on a little bit too long. Like, I think he was milking the peak, as he tends to do, and I think it hit a natural conclusion, but he kept going for a little while. Now, otherwise, this jam is really cool. The first half, pretty underrated, kind of little churning motif, great clav, nice little effect from Peter in there. And yeah, it's more than enough to beat this Redbird, which to me, I was the only one out of the 4 of us that didn't rank it. Jive had it at 45, Kev had it at 47, and Neil at 50, and it was 56 overall by the people. But overall, I think that this Pancakes pretty much wins and then loses to Hunger Site the next round. Matchup number 7, Neil's talking about it because he loves Spoon.
Yeah, this bit doesn't get old. I mean, this is a 3-year-old bit.
Never.
We're just going to keep doing it. All right, so we have the Kansas City 611 Inside Out Spoon cover. In case you haven't heard, the folks believe that I'm a huge Spoon fan. And then the 10 seed 9-1 Big Modern from Homedale. Debut of the song. Absolutely enormous jam. And I was initially very critical of this jam. And then I went back and listened to it a few more times. And the one thing I do like about this jam is that they entered into this thing with no urgency whatsoever. They were going to sit in this and wait until a musical idea came their way. And the interesting thing about it is, like, they don't do any of the bells and whistles of jamming that they normally do. There's no like false peaks or builds or any of that stuff. It's just a straightforward approach to improv. And it almost is like jazzy. Like, it's just jazz improv. Like, nobody's building to a peak. Nobody's doing all those fancy things that jam bands do that everybody expects to kind of get oohs and ahs and woos out of people. They're just straight ahead jamming in this thing, and it's super refreshing. I can put this on and just kind of crank and do work or something like that, like type for a while. And so that's pretty neat about this. But this Inside Out, I like a lot. Like a lot. I think I ranked it way higher than where it finally got seated. Ryan will tell us because I'm not allowed to say it. But yeah, I mean, all right. So
Do you want to say it, Neil?
no, you can do it. You can do it. The jam in this is so incredibly percussive. Thank you for the visual aid, Kev. And I just love the way it all shakes out. This is a spectacular jam. It's an excellent jam cover. And we keep doing the bit and we talk about how much I love Spoon. And folks want to say, well, the reason why this is ranked high is because people are really into the fact that it's a cover. I do not like this song. I don't like the song. I still rated this like reasonably high because I like the jam that's in it.
You don't like Big Modern? Is that what you're saying?
I don't like Inside Out. It is not my favorite song. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do love Inside Out.
Yeah.
I actually
First show, right?
Inside, yeah. Was it second show?
Second show?
Yeah. Our second show together also, but not together. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Inside Out. I love the song. And in fact, it's one of those songs for me where when I want to go catch that vibe, of a great Inside Out jam, and there's at least 3 or 4 really good versions of Inside Out with great jams that Goose has done. And I listen to the whole song. You know what I mean? There's no part of me that says, I really want to hear that dope Inside Out jam, but let me just fast forward to the 7-minute mark and get to the goods. You know what I mean? I like this song. Always been one of my, kind of, I'd say probably top 5 covers, maybe even, if not top 5, top 7 or 8 covers that Goose does. Anyway, great jam, but sometimes I'm just in the mood to, picture myself in the Ponderosa Pines, and
Sometimes.
I want to drink a cold one, in a lawn chair with the dogs running around.
With the TV out on the front lawn.
Yeah, maybe watching a race. And
Chevrolet parked in the driveway.
Yeah. And so, yeah, anyway, I've been a big fan of this Big Modern jam from pretty much from day one. I know not everyone likes this jam as much as I do. But I've always said, for as long as this jam is, it doesn't really bore me. It's, I think Neil makes a good point about calling it, kind of jazzy. Yeah, it doesn't have high highs and low lows, but it just carries you through, and I always enjoy it. And I've got the Big Modern going through here. So I guess Inside Out's on upset alert.
Kev?
Not an upset alert for me. This is a fairly easy Inside Out moving through to the next round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be an upset, but I agree with the fact that this is on upset alert because basically the seating of this Inside Out is a little bit crazy to me. So it was ranked 25 overall by the people, 31 by Jive Goose, 16 by me, 25 by Kev, and 15 by Neil. So once again, Kev, man of the people, on the money. Well done, Kev. This Inside Out is an absolutely incredible jam. It's rare that we ever get an indication of the band walking off stage and being like, wow, that was sick. Like we know the Philly Echo last year, that was one where we know that they walked off stage and was like this. And we saw in the summer tour vlog, they walked off stage, or maybe it was after the show, and they were talking about like, what was that sick jam we did? And it was like Inside Out. I was like, oh yeah. And Rick was like, oh yeah, that was sick. And so it's cool when you get that kind of vibe from the band, like that sticks out to them because, they're on stage, they play so many shows. But this Inside Out, I'd kind of underrated for a while. And by a while, I mean a couple of weeks. And then Neil was like, dude, you're underrating this jam, and played it in the car while we were driving from Portland to Philly in June. And I was like, oh my God, I have been underrating this jam. And I've been pretty high on it ever since. And I'm a little bit disappointed that it ended up as a 7 seed.
It
I
sounds
thought
like listening to the music with your friends sort of gave you some clarity on what you liked and what you didn't.
Huh. Maybe it did,
Imagine that.
Kev. Maybe it did.
Huh.
But I think this Big Modern, it wasn't on my list for a little while. I did bring it back on at the end. So for context, ranked 40 by the people, 22 by Jive Goose, 57 by me, 42 by Kev, and was not on Neil's list. Yes, thank you, Bruce. Thank God Neil is here to help me. What would I do without him?
Well,
Yeah,
you'd be wrong
this
about
Big
Inside Out.
Modern, this Big Modern is really long, and I've always said that Goose needs to play jams like this, where there's a clear intention, like we are going to walk on stage and we are going to play for half an hour, and we're going to see what happens. Whether it is an all-timer jam or not, obviously you have a jam like the Fiddler's Madhavan, which is like 32 minutes, and it's like, your attention is held the whole time, versus this jam where I feel like it's not as much. But you don't get to the breakthroughs in jamming that they get to later in the fall without a jam like this Big Modern, where they're just like, we're going to play for half an hour and see what happens, because something happens at the 30-minute mark that you don't get if you don't have the preceding 30 minutes. So I think this jam is important for the development of the band. It could beat this Inside Out. I sincerely hope it doesn't. And I have Inside Out winning. Number 8, our final matchup of the bracket.
This is it. This is the last one. And this one is very interesting, actually. Some folks are going to be really, we had to come clean on that one. I'm not a Spoon fan. I just don't like the Spoon. In any case, so we have the 15 seed 9-12 Salt Shed Western Sun special guest Julian Lage. And then we have the 622 Fox Arrow, huge fan favorite. People are really, really behind this one. This is such a fascinating matchup. I listened to this Western Sun for the first time in a long time today. There's a lot to love about this thing.
Fucking good, dude.
Yeah. I don't know if I would call this like necessarily a strong Jam of the Year candidate, but this is like really strong on re-listenability. Rick obviously is aware of the reputation of the guy on stage with him. And Rick is like, all right, I'm going to bring my A game to this. And he does. There is a segment where they're playing together. They're kind of doing this hyper speed riff thing in tandem that is so amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. So just wanted to say that about this Western Sun. This arrow, I think, destroys this thing, because this arrow is also incredible. Peter Hunspach is so goddamn good at the synth.
Oh my
God. It's ridiculous. And you listen to this thing, and like, if you don't walk away from this saying like, holy crap, Peter Hunspach is absolutely amazing at the synthesizers. Like, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you. This jam isn't even half as good without Peter doing the things that he does on the synth. I love it. This is a strong 2 seed. I believe this is the 5th overall rated. So this is the top of the 2 seeds. So
yes, this is number 6.
It's number 6. Okay,
number 5.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Jai, what do you got?
Well, so I just want to say, I thought about you because when I was listening to this arrow, it occurred to me, in my opinion, that it's not until about 16 or so minutes in that it does anything.
True. True.
And so I know some people say that earns deductions. I like this arrow. I think it moves on easily here. I had it at 10 overall, so top 10 jam for me. Arrow of the year for sure. Maybe one of the best arrows they've played. Certainly in that conversation. So yeah, I think Arrow moves on quite easily here. But yeah, I'm a Julian Lage fan, so was very, very excited when he came out this night. And I haven't gone back to it enough. Maybe I need to go back to it a little bit more. I think maybe
Please do.
I think maybe because of my expectations coming in, I was slightly disappointed by the song selection in terms of what they played with them out there. I mean, a Western Sun's obviously a beautiful song. Um, I was happier with that than I was with the subsequent song they played with Julian. But
Turn Clouds.
yeah. So anyway, that being said, yes, familiarize yourself with the Western Sun here if you haven't already. But surely everybody's going to be smashing that arrow button.
Smash that arrow button if you're hyped. Kev?
So clearly the arrow is going to win here by sheer old school mentality of me compiling my Jotty bracket. I handwrite it. I accidentally left this one off
Oops.
my Jotty list. That being said, I absolutely love this. A Western Sun. I think it's just, again, sit-ins aren't proper goose or whatever. This is a fantastic version of the song. It's not going to move forward against this arrow. The point of this is to listen to these songs. I'm happy that this particular version of a Western Sun made the bracket, and I'm just happy that hopefully a handful more people are going to listen to it. Arrow moves forward.
There we go. Kev, while he did leave off Fox Arrow accidentally, he was the only one of the four of us to rank this a Western Sun, and he had it at 59 overall. So nailed the seating, Kev. Yeah, this arrow was ranked, as Jive Goose mentioned, 10, 13 by me and 8 by Neil, and was 6 overall by the people. Yeah, this is straight up alien abduction goose. I don't have a ton to add. Neil kind of covered it. Peter, OB6. That's all. Interesting point by Bruce, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's an interesting angle to approach it from anybody who was in Atlanta. That arrow crushes, but was a better performance than standalone track, elevated by the lights of production live. Thought it was so epic, but just didn't hit as hard as I expected on re-listen. I mean, there's something to be said about the experience of seeing this jam live with what Getty was doing during it. But I think on re-listen, it does hold up. But that is an interesting angle to look at it from. So that brings us to the end of our final region here. Final four thoughts, Neil?
I'm going all. No, I'm not going all chalk. I'm going all chalk, except for I think the arrow comes out of this region. And I think it kind of has to. And I think when you look at the numbers of like who submitted votes on this thing, you'll see why I think that. We're going to get to that in a bit. So folks have been asking for transparency and how the bracket was made. We're going to give you that transparency. And I think that will actually answer questions as to why I think arrow comes out of this region.
I've got Tumble coming out.
Concise jive. I'm with Andrew Duddy. I think the Tumble easily moves through this region.
I have Tumble as well, which may surprise some people. I think there's just nothing in this region that really has the power to beat it. I badly wanted to put the Home Del Motivon ahead of the Tumble, but I can't. The Tumble is a better jam. For all the maligning I do on it, I think it's just because there are jams that I like more than the Tumble, but those jams are not in this region. So it does make the final four for me. Okay.
All right, we're done.
This is it. This is your 2024 Jam of the Year bracket.
Go home. You can all go. No, you can't go home yet.
No, don't go home. We are not done.
Yeah.
We're only an hour and a half in.
Yep, we should be done in the next, it won't take any longer than 3 hours. Promise.
Yeah, just a couple more hours.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, this is your 2024 Jam of the Year bracket. It is all laid out right in front of you. As we said before, all the information on the competition, plus the bracket, Nugs playlist, the whole deal, how you can get involved will be sent and posted tomorrow morning. The bracket challenge will be open for you to fill out your brackets first thing. So look forward to that. But
and real quick, just remember that you people did this.
yes. Kev.
It's your fault.
Kev,
yeah, man. Should we get into some
now?
Final Four predictions?
Yeah,
and maybe a Cinderella pick or two.
Well, why don't you tell us yours?
So here's what I got going for the Final Four. Obviously, the Philly Man Tumble is one of those. The Fiddler's Motivon as we go down to the Apollo region. And let's see. Let's just do counterclockwise here. We'll go to Manu, and we'll say the Westville Rockdale moves to the Final Four there, as well as the Cap Drive when we start talking about the Chiron region. So those are my final four right there. Let's see, upset alert. I don't know about an upset alert to like win the whole thing. I think one thing to keep an eye on, specifically Ryan, you thought that hunger site is easily going to defeat the pancakes from where the hell is that? From Raleigh. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, in Leo. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen. So I would put that hunger site on early round upset alert.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Goose Miss Hunger Site is my Cinderella pick from the bracket. I have it making the Sweet 16 and then losing to the Fox Arrow, but as a 6 seed, I do have it beating the 3 seed Raleigh Pancakes in my bracket. My final four is all chalk. I think in general we all have an instinct to be like, oh, like all the 1 seeds. Why? Where's the fun in that? I think that speaks to how well this was seeded. I think every year, with the more people we have getting involved, I think the bracket is a little bit better seeded every year. Obviously, there are some lower ones that I agree with and some shuffling at the top that I would do. But I think overall, my top 3 are all 1 seeds. My finals come down to the Fiddler's Motivon versus Cap Drive. And I have Fiddler's Motivon as my champion. Neil?
Well, I kind of already revealed it. We were talking about the last region. But I don't know. I mean, I see a chance where the arrow can make its way out of the Leo region. I really do want to see Rockdale go far in this because I think it's an excellent jam. I want the conversation to continue around this Rockdale, throughout this whole bracket. Actually, I want the conversation to continue about all these number 1 seeds because I think they're all outstanding for different reasons. Yeah. So as far as, in the Jam of the Year bracket, Cinderella stories aren't really a thing necessarily because especially when it's like fan voted, the votes are going to follow what the seeds are if, the fans are seeding this thing. But the one thing that I
last year.
Yeah,
it's true. And honestly, there have been some upsets every year.
And if it doesn't work out the way you want.
Portland T last year. Yeah, exactly.
So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about upsets. I'm talking about Cinderella stories. There are rarely Cinderella stories in these things. There are upsets. But there's rarely a jam that's, there's never going to be a 12 seed that just makes it all the way to the end. It's just not going to happen. Right. So in any case, I do think that we'll see that Goose Miss Hunger Site maybe travel a little bit farther than we expected. I think when folks really listen to that one, they might latch onto it.
Yep.
And get excited about it. So that one, maybe I see doing 1 or 2 upsets as it goes.
There we go. Amazing.
So for what it's worth, it has to beat the Waukee Need, and then it has to beat the Raleigh Pancakes.
Waukee.
And I think it can do that.
Yeah.
Or Waukee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B?
So I've got 2 1 seeds, a 3 seed, and a 4 seed in my final 4. I have the Fiddler's Matavan, 2 cap jams in the final 4, the Bird and the Cakes, not the Drive.
Oh, wow.
And then I have Tumble in my final, the Man Tumble in my final 4. I didn't want anyone to get confused. There's a lot of tumbles out there. So yeah. And yeah, so I think in terms of like Cinderella, I think based on the way things are laid out here, I think Fiddler's Drive, I think there's an outside chance that Fiddler's Drive as a 5 seed, there's a universe where it goes to the final 4. Because if you think about it, it would have to get by Capcakes, which I have high, but not everybody does. It would have to get by Rockdale. And if you kind of compare all those jams, Fiddler's Drive is the big long jam. It's a drive. Everybody loves drive. I mean, I could see it happening. And then the bottom half is, Cap Mist, Greek Drip. There's a path forward for Fiddler's Drive if people want to go down that road. That's all I'm saying.
I would say if you had said Elite 8, I'd be on board, but I don't think with the public support and love for the Cap Mist, I don't think that jam has the ability to beat that. But
you never know. I didn't think Echo Rose had a chance last year.
Well, that's fair. But when Vickers gets involved and Peter puts his thumb on the scale. But all right, B. Yeah. Thank you, Kev. Shall we?
I want to thank Bruce for dropping some amazing comments, but this one is the MVP of the night. Drive Goose is spitting right now. Ryan doesn't understand sports. He doesn't know. And man,
True, I don't.
no truer of a statement has ever been said.
We're trying. We keep
Thanks,
trying
Bruce.
with the kid.
There we go. Okay.
We're trying.
B, do you want to take us into our next segment? Thanks, Mom.
I do. Yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about some of the jams that maybe didn't make the top 64 overall, but that maybe a lot of people submitted. And we have a tradition now of creating a second playlist at least that runs also 64 songs. Like it gets pretty long. It's the No Jam of the Year for You, Pal playlist for 2024. This is Ryan's going to share a link to this in his blog post, and
it'll be on socials.
And a bunch of social. Yeah, I was going to say also in social media posts. Thank you. And so, yeah, it's a fun playlist because there are a lot of really good jams that didn't make the top 64. And in fact, I'd like each of us. I think each of us actually have some jams that we ranked fairly high that didn't make the final 64. So we'll talk snubs just quickly here, because I think you'll find your snubs in this secondary playlist. My big one, and I know I'm not the only one here.
You are not.
I had it at 41 overall. Didn't make the playlist. Fox Drive. That was the big one for me. And then my 42, I actually had 3 picks in my 40s that didn't make it. So I'll just hit on those 3 real quick. The Drive and then 2 big moderns, 1026 and 927. That rounds out my top 5 big moderns that I had submitted. So yeah, those are my snubs.
There we go. Neil? Or Kev, sorry. Kev?
So I just real quick, I have 2 that I want to give some props to, and just from the sense that I wish the people had a chance to vote on them. One of them was the Running Up That Hill cover, the Kate Bush cover, that came in at 76, that I wish at least was able to make the bracket so people had an opportunity to vote on that. And the other one, I'm probably going to get sort of made fun of for this, but was the LMAG that came in at 68.
Which LMAG?
Forest
Hills LMAG that came in
yes.
at 68?
Yep.
There we go. All right. Yeah, for me, I want to reiterate Fox Drive. B said it, but this is one that I can't believe didn't make it. It is on the No Jam of the Year for You, Pal playlist, but I can't believe that didn't make it. There's a really cool kind of mellow piano jam in the second half of this, which I really, really love. And I can't believe that it didn't get enough votes to make the bracket. I think also, you see it on your screen here, the number 65, the Boston Thatch. I had it at 62, but I think it deserves consideration. And also the Eugene Tumble, I had it at 44. I'm shocked that this one didn't make the bracket either. Really cool kind of klezmer piano jam in this one, but 44 on my list, and it didn't make the bracket.
Some say tumble fatigue is a real thing.
Tumble and air
tumble and drive fatigue.
Drive as well.
That's
absolutely.
a big thing. I think the Fox Drive just kind of falls through the cracks. When you have something like when you have the Cap, when you have Fiddlers, Minneapolis, and so on and so forth. Neil?
I don't really have anything on my list where I want to say it's a huge snub, other than the Fox Drive, which, like you guys, I really enjoyed. I think it has a Ted Tapesy vibe to it that is just different and is exciting. And I listen to this actually often. I wrote a lot of words about it, anticipating that it was going to be in the bracket, because I was going to say a lot of things about it, but it's not there. Otherwise, I said this already, and I'll say it again. I really do believe in the wisdom of crowds on this stuff. And when I build my bracket, I think of a very clear tier 1. There's like a pretty solid tier 2. Tier 3 gets like pretty hazy. And then tier 4, it's all bets are off. So if your 50 is my 65, 70, I'm not mad at you because I think they're probably pretty close to equal footing. So I don't think there's anything in the back half of my bracket where I was just kind of like, that one absolutely had to be there. That's not the way Goose is anymore. In 2021, that's what we would have said, and I think that would have been right, but I don't think that's right anymore. So nothing on my list I saw as a huge snub other than that drive, like you guys.
Yeah. I do have one more I wanted to mention. This is actually another jam that I did have ranked at number 62. You will find it on the No Jam of the Year for You Pal 2024 playlist, and that's Cape Cod Quasquasa. I mean, I kept it on my list because I think there's always going to be a place in my heart for that jam. It's a really fun jam. It's notable. It's historic, and I think it hits some criteria that maybe we're not always considering for Jam of the Year. So sure. I wanted to maybe just pay. I guess what it comes down to is I keep my playlist at 64. So I don't keep it at 84 and then I submit 64. I keep my playlist at 64. So I've got to make decisions throughout the year, and I just didn't have it in me. You know what I mean? I couldn't pull the trigger on bumping that Cape Cod Quasquasa off my list. I just had to keep it.
I wanted to do that for a while, but also speaking of the Cape Cod, if people didn't know, we did have CT, the drummer of Vampire Weekend, on the pod last May to talk about that sit-in. That episode is available wherever you're listening or viewing this right now. So go check that out if you haven't. It's a great interview. I apologize to CT. I know
he's not going to be happy. Yeah,
no, he had very big plans for the bracket for that jam. So I apologize to him and all the Vampire Weekend fans who he could have mobilized. That could have been the Cinderella story because Vampire Weekend has a lot of fans.
I think.
Oh yeah, we should have reached out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe he thought he got a strange man. Like if that jam wanted to play on it. That's all I can think of. I don't know.
I think we have enough. We could probably make that happen.
Well, let's.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Can we award honorary strange man?
Maybe. You have
send him one.
Right.
Guild one just for him. It takes a while. Yeah.
All right, Neil, why don't you intro our next segment here?
Well, can you put the graphic up on the screen? Because I think that actually helps when this
big. And Be Done arrives just as we are being transparent on the formula.
I mean,
perfect
thank
timing.
you for being here for this. So folks have asked for transparency in the bracket. I think there's a lot of cynicism this year, and folks are saying like, well, they're obviously stacking the deck. They are putting their jams first. A lot of people have said that. I think one of the biggest offenders is Vickers. In any case, so we wanted to give you the data because we have nothing to hide. We truthfully have nothing to hide. We do this for fun. There is nothing at stake here for us. We truly want the fans to choose their favorite jam of the year. So how do we do the seeding? Well, it's not complicated. I think Ryan has said the formula dictates. The formula is just kind of simple math and averages. Really, there's nothing really truly magical about that.
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
It is an Excel spreadsheet. And then again, I want to take this moment to pause and thank at 6 Hour Room 7, who is an incredible friend. Is an incredibly smart guy. He's thought about so many different things about how we create this bracket in a way that makes it more enjoyable for everybody. So really, truthfully, thank you, Adam. You are absolutely outstanding. We appreciate all the work that you do. We couldn't have this thing be as awesome as it is without you. So again, thank you. So let's take a look at the numbers. Folks, the number one thing that folks ask for is, what did people put at the top of their list? What is their number one? That's amazing. Do you want to read that aloud, Ryan? Or?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Bruce, before we move on. AAT following the footsteps of the band by doing clandestine fraud shit.
Yeah, thanks, first. That's amazing. So the number one thing people ask for is like, what were the number one votes? They wanted to know what was at the top of people's brackets. And then this is the thing that I think is really, really interesting. So you asked for this stuff, especially the Philly Tumble folks, and your hearts are going to be broken because it is not the top of everybody's bracket. It did appear on the most brackets, but the most number 1 votes went to Madavon from Fiddlers.
Yep.
So take a look at that. And then really interesting on that, the number 3 is the Drive, which is the number 2 overall seed. And then the number 4 is the Rockdale. So that follows like what you would expect. And then you can look at what people put for the 1 through 4 seeds, the 5 through 8, and so on. So all the data's here for you to take a look at. So there's no stacking the deck. There's no, kind of collusion or whatever you want to call it. Adam is a pretty straightforward guy. He's an honest guy. He wouldn't be involved in anything like that. You can throw all the accusations at the 4 of us that you want, but not at Adam,
Yeah.
Anybody else have observations about this data they want to point out?
What
No,
I would
just
say,
want to say,
we all have things to say. I'm going to say something real quick, and I just want to say, like, if you've heard any of us like talk about any data tonight whatsoever, thank you to Adam for aggregating all of this stuff and giving us the opportunity to be able to look at the stuff, be able to make analytical observations about it, and be able to talk to you all about it. So again, this is a huge step for transparency in terms of the questions that some folks have. And on top of that, thanks to Adam for not just making it transparent, but you guys know him as a baker of bread. He also makes spreadsheets.
crazy on the side.
Damn right. Damn right.
Yeah, I just want to say we will be sharing this graphic of the top 16, for you all to look at on social media tomorrow. Just again, as Neil said, in the spirit of transparency, making sure everyone knows that, yeah, this is, we want the discussion to be the focus of this bracket, and the community that this fosters. We hear every year people being like, I got into Goose and the bracket was a huge part of what helped me integrate into the community. And that means a lot to all of us. That's something we're able to facilitate, whether you've been a Goose fan since 2018, or you've discovered them and haven't even seen them live yet. We want this to be a platform for you to discover jams that you are kind of under the radar, stump for your favorites. But at the end of the day, we are all friends here. We are all joined by our love of this band. And that is the most important thing. We are celebrating what an incredible year Goose had in 2024. And that's what we do every year in this bracket. B, over to you.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is that I guess I kind of think this is a little bit sad at the end of the day. This is really cool data to share. And I think it's cool now that there's so many submissions to be able to share the data with people so they can kind of look at some of the stuff, because it is kind of nerdy and fun. And so this is really interesting stuff to look at. The sad part is that there are honestly people who spend their day coming up with theories about how somebody's trying to tamper with something or this or that. I mean, yeah, these are just Goose Jams, people. And, if we were tampering with it, we wouldn't have Tumble at the top. So I'll assure you.
This is true. You can,
Damn right.
you can take that to the bank.
So yeah, I'll just be the last one to reiterate our thanks and appreciation for everything that Adam's done. It's super, super helpful. And so yeah, cheers to him. And yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah. And now some stats with our friend and yours, Jive Goose.
Yeah, so these are less interesting stats, I think, in some way. They're certainly
Should
not.
put this one first. Yeah.
Yeah. They're certainly not color coded.
And you know why?
Yeah.
Adam didn't make this tab.
Yeah.
That's why it's less impressive.
So yeah, we've hit on a couple of these already. If not earlier tonight, last night, but the 9-1 Big Modern's our longest jam of the bracket. Cincy Pancakes is the shortest jam. We have the 4 covers that we've covered, 2 tonight, the Half Step, the Inside Out, 2 last night with the IDI and the In Your Eyes. I think Ryan has mentioned 128 total seating submissions. So great job by everybody contributing there and getting involved. 430 unique song versions. That's a really high number.
Got at least one vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Pancakes, Arrow, Redbird Drive, all with 5 versions. I had Big Modern with 5, but not everybody else did.
No.
And then we just, we go on to break down, by date a little bit here. So bracket jams per month. June was the big month, followed by September. No surprise, that's because they played a ton of shows in those months, and so a ton of shows gets you a ton of jams. Although 4 shows in April gets you 6 jams in the bracket, so that's cool too. Most bracket jams by show. This is also kind of one that I'm always interested in, especially maybe if you're kind of trying to rank shows or point people to strong shows. Fox Night 3 had 3 jams in the bracket. Cincinnati Night 1 had 3 jams in the bracket. Fiddlers would be other shows that you would point out to your friends for really strong shows. And then I do a little Jive Goose Jam quotient here, and unfortunately, this is proprietary formulaic data that cannot be shared with the public.
No transparency.
But basically what this tells us is that Drive is the jam vehicle of the year. So congratulations to Drive. Love to see it. One of my favorite songs, always has been, probably always will be. And I love that this was the year of the Drive. So yeah, those are some fun stats to go with the hard data we showed earlier.
There we go. All right. Well, of course, we promised last night that we will be announcing some more information on the prizes for those winning the bracket challenge. We want to give a huge shout out to our good friend Uncle Fred's Jive, seen here with his 2 Golden Strange Men. Everybody give a round of applause for Uncle Fred's Jive for winning the last 2 years.
Guy's a fucking machine, man.
Like, can he do it again? And let me tell you, you're all going to want to hear this. Fans of Goose, do you like listening to Goose? Do you like watching live streams? Well, we are so excited to announce that, of course, thank you to our friends at Nugs. We are offering the grand prize winner of this year's bracket challenge 1 full year of an all-access subscription at Nugs. Yes, you heard that right. If you win the bracket challenge this year, not only will you get a Golden Strange Man, which obviously is the one that
hand-gilded
cares about,
Golden Strange Man,
hand-gilded by Neil, you will also get 1 full year of a Nugs subscription, all access, including all audio, all live streams, the whole kit and caboodle. If you will. There we go. Yeah.
Some are saying 12 months.
Yeah, the whole year.
Some are saying. But that is on the table for this year. Of course, we also have some amazing merch packages and pins courtesy of our good friend Kev. But all this information will be posted, of course, tomorrow with the opening of the bracket challenge. So start preparing now, because again, if you win, you get free Nugs for a year. Yeah, Bruce might be getting involved. This is very exciting. Yeah, Nate Bordash, unrelated to this, but we haven't said this yet. Much love to Peter on his engagement. Congratulations.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Can't wait to,
very, very exciting.
Say congratulations to Mers. Yep.
And honestly, look at this guy here on the screen. Is he going to get the 3-peat? This is the man to have your eye on.
Can we pause for a moment and actually talk about how hard it is to do what he's done? Because it is near impossible.
We joke around about all of us like having our finger on the pulse of the people, but really, like this guy holding up those 2 gilded Strange Man, he's the guy right there that has his pulse, has his finger on the pulse of the people. Like he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and guessing how the bracket's going to shake out is hard, and he's done it twice. That's not to say don't submit. You certainly can beat him because it is really hard to do it, and like 3 times in a row, I think is impossible. Yeah. So go out there, get your Gilded Strange Man. I assure you, I will work extra hard on it. You can put it in a prominent place in your home, and I think your guests
on the mantle
and your family will appreciate it.
Wow, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation piece. It's a bragging right. I mean, it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So do what you can to earn one.
There we go.
Should we really put our finger on the pulse of the people and start?
I think we should.
Questions?
Well, hold on. I wanted to comment on Uncle Fred's Jive. First off, he's not only the only 2-time small man winner, he's the only 1-time small man winner.
It's true.
He holds every small man prize that has ever been won. And to the question of will he three-peat, I've said this before. I've got the odds pretty low on it. I just and you can look at that two ways. It's not out of any disrespect for Uncle Fred's Drive and his accomplishments. It's that his accomplishment has been so crazy.
It's the numbers, man.
That I just can't see it happening again. I think if Uncle Fred's Jive three-peats, any bracket conspiracy theorists out there should shift their attention from the formula to whatever this guy's doing.
Yeah, because he's got to be what, plus 150 right now to three-peat?
All right.
Oh, way higher. Way higher.
All right. Well, Conspiracy Meal will be on the case. Have no fear. But I believe it's time, Kev.
Oh, we need to do this.
I believe it's time.
So we solicit questions from folks every time we do a tour recap, but we're trying something a little different this evening, and we are going to solicit questions directly from y'all from the chat right now live. And what do we got, Ryan?
We're opening up the sack. We are opening up the sack live. So we're going to take some questions, comments. Please drop it in the chat right now. No, Rob Storm, FanDuel is not accepting bets on this, but you should ask them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the next sponsorship that we need to work on.
Here we go.
Talk to the folks at DraftKings about.
Yeah.
Oh, how's the Guinness? Delicious.
Thank you, Jeff Joniak Burner, for asking Conspiracy Neil how his Guinness is. Brendan Dunn, who will win the bracket? Well, we can't tell you that because we decided, but
yeah, we haven't decided yet entirely.
Yeah. Okay, so Andrew Duddy asks, why are you so wrong about Philly Tumble as Jam of the Year? And you know what I say to you is, Andrew Duddy, you saw the data. The data actually suggests that Philly Tumble will not win the Jam of the Year. The overwhelming majority of people actually don't think that's the number one. It is the number one seed as chosen, but there are actually more first place votes for another jam. So, folks, strap in. This is going to be a crazy, crazy year for this stuff because it's obvious that the people are divided. And the folks who put Philly Tumble on their brackets didn't necessarily rank that Madavon so high. And, the other way around. So we'll see.
There we go. Next sack. Excellent question from Bruce. That's going to be kind of a staggering number here. This was fantastic, guys. Thank you, Bruce. How much time do you think you each spent listening to make your brackets? Well, I'm going to say that I saw 47 Goose shows. So that's over 120 hours on its own in 2024. And
humble brag.
I talk about it all the time. We know that I would say,
had to be done.
I mean, I don't actually know, but I would say given the fact that I listen to it all day while I'm working, probably upwards of 250 hours in addition to that. I don't actually know whether that's a high estimate or a low estimate or anything, but I would say 300, 350.
Yeah. I think he just
hours.
wants us to throw a number out there. I don't think we need to.
I don't know. I'm trying. I'm trying to think about it, but I
don't think Bruce said hey, can you wax poetic about how many hours you spent building the bracket?
All right.
Will you show your work, please?
Yeah.
Anyone else have any guesses?
Well, I would say in general, the 64 track playlist for anybody is somewhere around 24 or 25 hours, right? Give or take a little bit of time. So I mean, everybody's at least that far in, but we're all nuts, right? So we listen to these tracks multiple times.
True. And
then we key in on stuff where we're like, oh, that's really good. So let me listen to that eight times or 10 times or 12 times or whatever it is. Sorry, Neil, I'm waxing poetic. I don't know what the fucking answer to that is. It's a lot of fucking hours.
It's a lot of hours.
Yeah. Pleasure, though.
Jive, do you want to go before me or?
I think my answer was just going to be less than you guys.
Yeah, it's probably true. Probably true. You know what's funny about this year is I think I did less intensive Goose listening than I have in the past. I've listened to each of these at least a few times. This year I worked my way through every single Dick's Picks. So that took up a lot of my time. That's a lot of hours. But this year, I mean, I don't know. I mean, in just preparing for this bracket, I've listened to well in excess of 20 hours. So, I mean, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of hours. I listen to this band a lot. I like this band. They're pretty good. I've listened to them a lot for a long time. And when I drive to work in the morning, it's what I listen to. When I drive home, it's what I listen to. I do have other pleasure listening music, but I do listen to this band a lot because I like talking about this band with you guys. It's one of my favorite things to do is do this.
Me too.
And I need to listen to the band a lot in order to do that. So
Yep. Well, I have good news for you, Neil. There's going to be more opportunities to talk about Goose coming up very soon.
you don't say.
Isn't that crazy? Less than
Yeah.
2 weeks. In 12 days, Goose starts their Winter Tour 2025. And of course, as is tradition, we will be doing day after shows after all 8 of the dates, including 2 shows in Toronto. Canadian debut for this band. I cannot wait to see them in my hometown.
Toronto.
Finally.
No one cares.
I do, and that's what matters. And the shows are sold out, and it's going to be awesome. I'm going to plug it because we're here. If you're coming to Toronto, February 9th, Henderson's Brewing in Toronto. We are doing a little shindig in the afternoon and Super Bowl viewing party. We will be playing music. Cosmic Drift, a band I'm in with some very fine people, including my father. We will be playing music starting at 3:30 p.m., followed by a Super Bowl viewing. And after night 1, late night at the Linsmore Tavern, I will be playing with the band Animal. No relation to the Goose song. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Winter Tour, of course, we will have day after shows. We will have a recorded Winter Tour recap and more information coming at you soon. But for the 3rd year in a row, we are so beyond excited to have Peter joining us for a live episode later on in February.
He's got a little bit of a playlist too, right? We're not going to
He will
necessarily talk about the contents of it, but that'll be for that pod episode.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So look for more information on that coming soon, but we're so excited to have him on. Just like last year, we'll be talking about the Sweet 16. It's going to be amazing. So don't miss that. Keep your eyes peeled. But everybody, thank you so much for watching, whether you watched tonight, whether you're listening after the fact, you tuned in for every minute of both of these lives. We appreciate all of you. Bracket voting opens tomorrow morning, January 26th, bracket challenge opens tomorrow morning, January 26th. You have until February 1st at 11:30 a.m. to submit. Voting officially starts with the first 2 matchups of the Leo region on February 1st at noon Eastern. And from there, we will go until a champion is crowned in July. I'm just kidding, in March. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's bracket season. Any of you guys have anything else to add?
I do want to say one more thing because
Yes.
I always have something to kind of add at the end. That's like very kumbaya, and I'm going to do a kumbaya thing right now, which is this. I tweeted today about it. I wanted to say it on the pod. Hopefully we can clip this maybe and put it on Blue Sky. But the bracket is about the conversation. It's not about which jam wins. So I just said it, actually. My favorite thing to do on this planet is actually sit with these guys and talk about jams. I encourage you all to do that. Talk with your friends, listen to these songs. But what you shouldn't do is get angry about it or cynical. None of those things. That's not what this is about. This is about having fun and listening to music that makes you feel good. So if you hear a jam and you're like, this is my favorite jam, and somebody says, I don't like that jam, don't get pissed. Like, please don't get pissed. And certainly if it's people on, Blue Sky or whatever, who are like trying to enter the conversation about this stuff, don't get mad at those folks. Like, if they're new to this, bring them in. This is about inclusiveness. This is about talking. It's about a community thing. That's what this is all about. It's not about being right or wrong. So please encourage people to join the conversation. Don't discourage them from joining the conversation. This is all about, I mean, Nate's the guy. Nate's the spokesperson for this.
No bad days.
Love is better than hate. For sure. But please bring people in, encourage them to listen to the music. That's what made me love this band so much, was this first bracket. And I won't stop saying it. Every time we do this thing, without the 2020 bracket, I wouldn't be so stoked on this band. So please bring people in. It will increase their love of the music.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kindness first. And just because, Ryan punches people at shows, That does not mean violence is ever the answer. So be
You got a
kind.
point.
Yeah, just a couple quick parting thoughts. Congrats to Haps and to Turn Clouds. It looks like y'all, had some sex tonight, so congrats to you guys. And then the very last thing I would say is go Bills.
Thanks for that, Kev. Really appreciate it. Keeping it G-rated, or I guess PG-13. I don't know. Whatever. Thank you, everybody. We love you all so much. Happy bracket season. Voting starts February 1st. Bracket challenges are open tomorrow morning. Let's get after that Nug subscription. And otherwise, we'll see you out there very, very soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. We love you all very much.